Him at all. Huh? He says he doesn't think it's working, Greg. Do you know if there's his hearing lit thing? Well, I'll just keep talking. I'm really good at talking. I can just keep talking. No? Maybe a different one? All right. It's great to see everybody out this morning. Glad you're with us. Got some visitors over here on the aisle. That's good. Glad to see them. Oh, I know. I was picking on Alex and Stacy. We're glad to see them here. We have several folks that are visiting. Joanne's friends. It's great to have everybody here. I keep talking a little bit more so I can make sure he can hear me, but he's got to pull him out of the thing. We'll keep going. It's good to see everybody. We've been having this discussion around things the church should be focusing on and things that we can do ourselves. And one of the things, and we've talked a lot about the different areas that we can look at and do, and not knowing how many folks we would have this morning who might be visiting, and we'd obviously want to make sure that the path we're headed down is one that we feel comfortable with, no matter who's in the audience with us. That is, so we want, one of the things I thought would be really good is if we can talk about the difference between faith and belief. Because I think it not only plays into the topic we've been talking about for the last 6 or 7 weeks, but I think it helps us all think about what the difference is for each of us between the two. So let's have a kind of a discussion here and keep going with a few thoughts. So what is belief? Give me your thoughts on. Now, I'm going to go at this from a secular perspective, not a religious perspective, just to drive home our point, and then we'll get into the religious side of things. What is belief? What is belief? Anybody? You want me to give you an example so I can help you see where in the world I'm trying to go with this? Bill?
I think this is a good subject because it's so misunderstood. And my own feeling, maybe I look at faith as being having more trust.
Yeah. Well, what is belief?
I know, but I'm going to get to that.
Well, but we're going to get to faith in a minute. We're not on faith yet.
I know it, but for me to tell you why I think that belief is different, I need to kind of put that faith
But that's what I have to do is show how it's
You want me to answer questions?
I want you to tell me what belief is.
I'm going to tell you.
Oh, okay. But you're not going to, don't talk about faith, only talk about belief. You're telling them all the plot of my story. You're going to tell them who did it at the end here in a second.
Well, anyway, Dave and I, we're just kidding each other.
Yes. I love a back and forth, a little banter. Let me give you an example.
Belief to me can be almost, may not necessarily trust, but you believe it.
Yes. So let me give you an example, and then hand the microphone back to your sister-in-law so she can talk here in a second. How many folks have not seen the Grand Canyon before? Okay. Oh, good. But do you believe it's there?
Yeah.
Right? That's belief. That's belief. Evelyn, what were you going to say?
To me, belief is how we think about things.
Yes.
And it shapes our actions.
Yes.
And it shapes our attitudes. And it's a lot of times grounded in our culture.
Yes. Yes. And I think sometimes we blur the lines between belief and faith because sometimes we talk about what we believe, but it doesn't necessarily change how we live or how we think or what we do. Right? Jerry?
To me, belief is based on evidence, right?
There you go.
Gravity, right? We believe in gravity. Why? Well, we've all experienced
because every
gravity.
time I get down on the floor, it's really hard to get up afterwards.
And we have belief in the Grand Canyon because, You've been to the Grand Canyon. Oh, wow. Is it cool? Yeah, it's really cool. You got to see it, right? So based on evidence of things we see or people have seen that we know that we trust.
Yes.
And based on even stuff like mathematics, right? There are certain things that work and we know they work. 2 + 2 is 4.
Yes.
Really? How do you know? Well, just
Well,
do it.
give me 4 apples
It's
and I'll show
belief,
you.
right? So there's
Yeah.
all that evidence that to me is belief.
Yep.
I get up in the morning thinking, I'm going to go to work and my car is going to start. Why? Because it started the last 7 days.
Well,
So, right?
but I think that goes a little bit
Based on
further.
evidence, I believe the car is going to start. May not, but based on evidence, I believe it's going to start.
Fair.
Right?
There you
Fair? So,
Yes.
okay.
But I had other examples, right? How many people have never seen a volcano? Right? But you believe volcanoes are real? Right? How many people were not born in the year 1990? Beth, I love you, Beth, but... Oh, you weren't born in the year 1990. Okay, how many have been born since the year 1990? But do you believe that the Reds won the World Series in 1990? Not based on recent performance, right? So we've made some really good comments, right? We've talked a lot about the things that we're accepting something as true. We accept something as true. You know, that the Reds did win the World Series in 1990. Who knows if they'll ever do it again? Sorry, that's a little editorial. The fact that the Earth is round, right? This is a more recent belief. This is a more belief that the Earth is round. There were many, many times when people struggled with the idea: is the Earth round? But you and I believe it's round, right? I've personally flown around the world. Not in 80 days. Anyway, when I flew to Asia one time, I flew over the Pacific, and then when I left, I went through Europe. And so I ended up, it was really kind of a neat opportunity to say, oh, I flew around the world. The Earth is round, right? We have this expectation. You're the moderator. You can't make comments. No, I'm just kidding, Steve. Go ahead.
I think belief is when you can actually physically see something or experience something. I mean, I believe that the Grand Canyon's there, but I could actually go see it. Whereas faith, you can't actually go see it. You have to trust.
But you can't
But
see
faith,
that
you can see the volcano, you could see the film strips of the Reds, or I was old when that happened, so.
Yeah. Let me keep giving you a different example here, that the Grand Canyon is real. We'll come back to that because I think there's things that we have to talk about our belief that goes beyond what we can see, right? Because it's things that we experience, it's things that we consider factual, and those are the things that we believe in. And I think that's important for us to. And the reason I'm trying to draw such a distinct line is because I think it's important for us to see the difference between belief and faith. And then I'll come back to you and let you make your comment. So don't lose it. Okay. There's a distinct difference between the two. So if we understand what, let me give you a couple examples here. And maybe it's a little controversial to say we believe in the NFL review policy, right? The replay review policy. I believe in it. It's pretty good. I wish it could be quicker. I wish it could be. I think they've gotten really good at being quicker, but I have a faith in that system to be as accurate as possible, right? Seed packets. You ever go to the hardware store or somewhere and buy a packet of seeds and plant that in the ground and you never know what you're going to get, do you? No, you have faith that whatever it says on the outside of the package, I'm going to plant it and I'm going to get it. Well, don't plant it too close. Don't plant your cucumbers too close to your tomatoes, but the seeds that came in the packet should, you have faith in that. Your bank. We have. That may be controversial for some folks. You may be still squirreling away your money inside your mattress somewhere. But for the most part, ever since the FDIC and ever since the savings and loan crisis that we had in, what was that, the 90s? Most of us have faith in our banks, right? We recognize that it's a safe place to keep our money. Faith becomes this thing, and you said this word, trust. And that's, I mean, it's what we trust. It's the reliance. It's the unwavering confidence. Jerry believes his car will start because of all the effort Jerry's put into his car. But he has faith that his car will still be out there in the morning because it's been out there every day since they've lived in that neighborhood. Bill has a comment. Now it's time. Bill.
It's believe.
What?
Believe.
No.
Faith, belief, trust. We often interchange believe.
We do, and I think that's what I'm trying to solve, is that they're
faith,
not the same.
right.
Yeah.
Right, and I often think of a belief as like a philosophy. You know, it's a way I do things. It's my belief. You know, we say to someone, "That's his belief." That's his belief. You know.
Well, I think that's probably not the way we're using the word today, though.
No, I know it. I know you're not, but I just want to throw that out.
Yeah.
But believe. Sometimes we say believe as being faith, because the believers.
Well, we often talk about someone's belief system
Yep.
because that's what they believe. That's what they say is true in their heart. That's what that's the doctrine that they follow. Yeah, Roger?
Back to the car starting, we have faith, if it don't start, that God will take care of us. In today's world, there's a lot of false beliefs. I don't think there's a false faith, but there is a lot of false believers. You believe in something that's false.
Well, they believe in something that's false and then put their faith in it. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
I agree with you. I don't think their faith is ever false. It all begins with a false belief.
Right, yes.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. No, hand it to your wife.
So I look at faith when we think about religion. I look at faith as rest in Him. And like Hebrews 11:1 says, faith is the substance of things hoped for, evidence of things not seen. So I feel like faith is our rest in Jesus.
Okay. I like that. That's interesting. In a couple of...
You can't have that rest without your faith being very strong.
Right. It gives you a peace. But because you have faith, it gives you peace. But what is... I think peace is an outcome of your faith. I think rest is an outcome of your faith. Right? So what we have to figure out is how we define what our faith is and how that looks. I said these things here. Let me give you a broader example. And again, I'm going back to the bank analogy. So if you had any PTSD with the savings and loan thing, I apologize. It was a big deal back in the day, wasn't it? I mean, it really was. Everybody was like, "I'm not putting my money in the bank." I think we've gotten to the point where banks are insured, banks are safe, all of that type of thing. And it's that point where I say, if I'm looking at the bank and I say, you know what, I believe that the banks are going to do the right thing with my money, so my belief drives me to act. I put my money in the bank because I have faith that the bank will keep my money safe, and it will make sure that my money is where it needs to be, and make sure that every time I go to the ATM, as long as I got money in the bank, that I can get money out of the bank. Right? It's that expectation, it's that understanding that that we know it's going to be there. So does that help drive home maybe the difference between belief and faith? Right? It's one thing to believe something, but it's also something else to have faith in it. It's real easy to probably see the parallels here in our faith, in in a spiritual context, right? I can believe in God, but until I hand over my life, myself, my desires to God, because I have faith in Him, then all I am doing is just believing. David?
I really don't think there's any difference between belief and faith, but a claim is made, and that claim is trusted based on how important it is and the evidence that supports it, and we get a degree of trust that is our belief or our faith in that claim.
Yeah, it is a degree of trust, because I think there are people out there who believe in God, but don't trust Him to meet their needs. Yeah, they're looking for, okay, how is God going to take care of me? I don't trust that God's going to take care of me. I'm going to take care of myself. There are people out there that say, I know there's a higher being. I believe that someone created this earth, but I don't want to rest all of my hope in that individual and put my faith in them. So I think there's a distinction between the two, and Jared's going to
Sorry.
go ahead.
I think what we're kind of bouncing back to over and over again is that functionally faith and belief are very similar. They're both a trust in something. I think the object of that trust is a big part of the differentiation. I think belief is trust in something that can be proved, that is more tangible, where faith is trust in something that is intangible, trust in something that is based on facts that are not directly provable. I think that the verb of each is the same. It's that trust, but then the object is the main differentiator.
See, and this is how I create a little contention in the classroom. I disagree.
Okay.
Because I don't think belief requires trust. I don't think you have to trust God to believe in God, but I think you have to trust God to have faith in God. I think there could be somebody driving down the street that believes in God but doesn't trust Him.
I think the belief is trust that whatever proof is real. So like my belief in God is trusting in the evidence that is there, not necessarily trusting in God Himself. My belief that gravity exists is not me trusting in gravity, it's trusting that every time I jump I'm going to go back to the ground.
Right, and that's a belief.
Yes.
My faith says I won't ever have to worry about drifting off into space because I have faith in gravity.
Yep. And I can't prove that I never will, but I have trust in everything that I have seen so far.
Right. And the same is true of God, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jerry? You want me to leave it there on that screen?
No, that's fine. If you're drawing the parallel, the people in the first century had evidence of Christ, right? They witnessed Him, they walked with Him, they had a strong faith because they seen the evidence, right? Today, people struggle with Jesus because they don't trust the evidence that was recorded for us. They never saw Him personally. They don't see all that evidence the first century Christians do. So I think, yeah, they believe, but when it comes to believing God will provide for you, it's not their expectation.
Yeah.
Right? Our expectations today are different maybe than they were in the first century. Because like Roger said, my car doesn't start, God will provide for me. Well, it's not the way I want God to provide for me. I want it to start right now because I gotta get to work, right? Or I gotta get wherever. And God's got a different idea of maybe what you need to do that day. So that trust in that belief, yeah, God will provide, but will He provide the way I think I should have or the way He thinks I should have? And there's a big disconnect today in the world about what God's expectations are of us and our expectations of God. And I think that drives some of our belief and our faith.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It does. So let's go to James chapter 2. Let's spend some time in Scripture. if we can, and then we'll come back and look for other comments. James chapter 2, beginning in verse 14, and it's talking about this distinction, right? And because one of the keys to this whole concept, this whole idea, is down in verse 19, right? Where it says, "You believe there is one God, you do well. Even the demons believe and tremble." Right? The demons believe in God. Do they have faith in Him? I mean, you understand the distinction, right? That people many times will believe in God, but not necessarily exercise their faith. Not necessarily have that faith. So when it says here, what does it profit, in beginning of verse 14, what does it profit, my brethren, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? Can faith save him? If a brother or sister is naked and destitute of daily food, and one of you says to them, "Depart in peace, be warmed and filled," but you do not give them the things which they needed for the body, what does it profit? Thus also faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. But someone will say, "You have faith and I have works. Show me your faith without your works, and I will show you my faith by my works," or by works. You believe there is one God, you do well. Even the demons believe and tremble, but do you want to know, O foolish man, that faith without works is dead? Was not Abraham our father justified by works when he offered Isaac his son on the altar? Do you see that faith was working together with his works, and by works faith was made perfect? That's key. We're going to come back to that. And the scripture was fulfilled, which said, Abraham believed God, and it was accounted to him for righteousness. And he was called the friend of God. You see then that a man is justified by works, and not by faith only. Likewise, was not Rahab the harlot also justified by works when she received the messengers and sent them out another way? For as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is dead also. So if I could put an equation up here, faith minus works equals, and I don't want the word dead. What am I looking for there? Faith minus works equals, no, I think it just means belief. You know what I mean? He's sitting here saying, you say you have faith, but you don't have any works. It means he's saying you believe in God, but you're not responding to God. You're not acting on your belief. You're not showing that you have anything to give as an example for your faith. Bill.
You don't have the trust to act. It doesn't motivate you to act.
Yes, you have to trust Him. I agree.
So-
Unwavering confidence.
So that makes it, it's what faith is based on,
Yes,
us acting.
yes.
And, it's action word.
When Abraham acted,
Yeah.
right? When Abraham acted upon his faith and took Isaac up there,
Yeah. But
that was all based on faith.
But Jesus did use interchangeably faith and believe,
They were
Yeah,
two different
yeah.
words, though.
Yeah, and then I'm reading a commentary here about says so faith comes from hearing from the word of Christ in Romans 10:17. So I think they're very much related and interchangeable in many ways.
Right, but what Paul is saying here is there's a distinction between faith and faith without works, right? He also says that faith without works is the same thing the demons have. And that's what I'm trying to get us to correlate here, right? Faith without works is the same as just having belief, right? If you believe in God, that's great. Most of the world, I believe, believes in God. But if you believe but never act upon it, your faith is dead. He says, you may believe, but you don't have an active faith. Carl? No, he didn't have a question. Sorry. He didn't have a question. False alarm there, Steve. I apologize. I almost called you Carla. Kathy. Wait for the microphone. Yes, you have to wait for the microphone.
So I think if you go back to James 2:19 and you just look at that, you believe that God is one, you do well. The demons also believe and shudder. But they have that belief, but they don't have the faith that God's going to take care of it. And right there, it looked like that's what you're trying to say.
Yes.
You can have that belief, but not the faith.
Yes. Yeah, and I think it was different in this expectation, right? We look at how those demons felt about things. We see that visible faith is what he's saying. This is what's interesting, very much so to me, is when he says, look, if you look back up here, he says, in verse 18, he says, but someone will say, you have faith and I have works. Show me your faith without your works, and I will show you my faith by my works.
They don't have to obey.
You have a microphone now. Say it one more time.
Do the demons not have a faith that they don't have to obey?
Correct. They don't. They don't have to obey because they've already been. But that's their faith. Well, but they believe in God and they're not acting upon that belief, right?
And the reason they're not acting on that belief is they have a faith that they don't need to do that, or they don't want to do it.
Yes. It's saying that you're saying that there's never an absence of faith, there's just a faith in something else. Right?
Right.
Yeah. And so I agree. They're having faith in something else. They're having faith in themselves or in whatever the path is that they're on. They're saying, this is where I'm putting all my money, right? If we're talking the bank of life, that's where they're putting their money. They're putting it there. But think about this idea that if you have to if he's saying, show me your faith without your works, and I will show you my faith by my works. So, is faith visible? Should be, yeah. But I always use this example, and she's not here, so it's okay. Judy, Chris would send cards left and right, night and day, all the time, right? Even when Frank was in whatever state he was in, Judy was always sending cards. Is that visible faith? To the people who got it, yeah, to the people she was encouraging. It's not standing up there or standing right here, right? It's how is our faith shown? It might be having a conversation with somebody. It might be standing up for what you believe in. It might be that post that Steve's having an argument with somebody about on Facebook. Is our faith visible? And it's just really it's one of those gut check kind of moments when you ask those kind of questions. And I think it's important to recognize that it's not a lifetime of works versus the first moment of works, right? It's not I was baptized, that's my act of faith. That was when I showed my faith in God by being baptized. It's a lifetime of actions. It's a continuous life of actions. Doesn't mean somebody who's 90-something stops acting, right? She's nodding her head. So how much? I was going to Hebrews 11. You just beat me to it. Hebrews 11 is so beautiful because it's all these moments where the phrases start with, by faith such and such, by faith so and so, right? And the Hebrew writer here is trying to help us see that people acted upon their faith It wasn't, and when you go to Hebrews 11, and the Hebrew writer starts it out with that verse that Colleen quoted quoted a while ago. Now, faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. It's this idea that by faith we understand the worlds were framed by the word of God, so that the things which are seen were not made of things which are visible. We have this faith. We have this thing that we act upon, even down in verse 6 of chapter 11, where it says, "But without faith it is impossible to please him. For he who comes to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him." So it's not just that you believe in him, it's that you diligently seek him. Jerry, there you go.
I think one of the things we have to keep in mind about the faith is serving the Lord.
Yes.
And I think that's a difference in that verse about believing with the demons. They don't serve the Lord.
Yes.
And
They
I
have
go
a
back-
different, their
Yeah.
faith is in something
They may have
else.
faith in something, but they don't have the faith
Yes.
that we're talking about in serving the Lord. And I go back to Joshua, right? When they were going into the land of Canaan, and everybody feared, and everybody was afraid. Even God had promised them,
Yeah.
"This is your land." And what did they say? "We're not going to go. We're not going to go." But Joshua said, "As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." Why? Because we have the faith that God said, "This is your land and I will give it to you." So are we really acting on our faith to serve the Lord? Or are we just in fear of something? Even when Peter said, "Well, we must serve God before men," when they were told to stop preaching. When you're at work and someone challenges you or your faith, do you have faith? Are you going to stand up and say, "This is what God says"? Or are you going to back down and cower because the company doesn't want you to say it? Your faith will drive what your actions will be. And if you're not willing to stand there and serve your faith and serve the Lord, you may have belief, but it's not really faith, because you're not serving God the way he said, "Serve me, and I will provide for you," regardless of what the outcome is. Again, it may not be our outcome that we like, but it'll be God's outcome if we serve with true faith.
I'm kind of letting that sink in for a minute, right? Because Jerry said, you have a belief, but you don't really have faith if you're not willing to act on it. How much action? And that's why I love Hebrews 11. The level of different things that they all did was so dynamically different, right? I love the story of Jericho. I mean, if you think about the story of Jericho, this is, when they're marching around the wall, there is absolutely zero special about these people. All they're asked to do is march around that wall and not say a word. I can do that. I might not march as fast as some people, but I can do that. But they had to do it 6 days in a row. And then they went around and screamed at the top of their lungs, right? I mean, just think about God's asking them to act upon their belief and show their faith. Moses refused his adoptive birthright. Abraham left home. Noah built an ark in the middle of the desert, right? Brian talked about it last week, how big that boat is down in Williamstown. I think it's huge. Can you imagine walking up to if my neighbor started building something in their backyard? I mean, really. Abel made an offering. Abel made a righteous offering. And that's what God needed him to do. That was him acting his faith out loud. Yes, sir.
The thing about the Jericho marchers, they didn't see the Red Sea part.
They didn't.
They didn't. So they heard the story.
They believed.
They never saw it. They believed. But they still did 7 times around.
Yeah. And Rahab, you talked about Rahab recently, didn't you? Yeah. Rahab's such a beautiful story. I mean, has she lived a righteous life all of her life? No, I mean, but it's that moment that she acted upon her faith. The moment she chose to say, I believe in God, so let me act upon my belief. Let me have faith in God. So as we kind of get to the end of our class, as we start to really kind of wrap up our thoughts, what about us? How much are we acting upon our belief? I'm going to say it that way very specifically because I want us to think about it specifically like that, right? We say we have faith, but show me your faith. That's how Paul wrote it to James. Isn't that how we should say it to each other? Should I be walking up to Dan? I don't know, I made eye contact. Should I be walking up to Dan and saying, Dan, you talk about your faith, show me your faith? You know, should we be having these kind of conversations with one another to challenge one another and encourage one another to live the right kind of way, right? I mean, our first thought is, the first moment in our lives is when we believe in God and act upon that belief, and in faith we become baptized and become Christians. But then it's a continual life of action. It's a continual life of faith, and faith has to have works. Faith has to have actions. We do not because we have to, we do because we want to. Bill has a comment. Hold on, he's coming.
I look at faith like I look at love. Show me, if you love me, show me you love me. If you have faith.
Which is an action word, right? I mean, love is an action word.
Yeah, you and I talked about this last week, I think.
Yeah. Some people, we talked about the Reds a while ago, right? Some people love the Reds. You know how you can tell? Because they got the shirt, they got the season tickets, they might watch every game, they might, you can tell they love. If Lauren were in here, we'd be talking about the Bengals. Does Lauren love the Bengals? Does everybody in here know that Lauren loves the Bengals? Well, if you give her 3 minutes, she'll tell you all about the game last night. Huh? But so we have to think about how does our action show up? What does your faith cause you to do? And again, I don't like to say I enjoy making you uncomfortable, but I think, well, maybe a little, but I think it's important for us to have answer the question either internally or externally to say, how do you define dead? How do you define what dead is? Colleen.
So I think we have to be really careful with so much of that because we're not supposed to be showing all the things we're doing to prove our faith or our works. We're not supposed to be showing that.
Yeah.
You have to be awful careful because I've known a lot of people who you would have never known.
Oh, and please understand, I'm not saying I'd really like it if Roger starts leading singing every Sunday and gets to do enough. No, well, I've never heard Roger sing. It might be fine, but it's not about being showy, right? There's a difference between showing our faith and being showy about your faith. I agree wholeheartedly. We don't want the big, what was the box on the forehead called? Phylactery? The bigger your phylactery, the more important you were in the Jewish culture, right? They would have these phylacteries that they would tie to their foreheads, and it was supposed to contain all the prayers that they were saying for whatever circumstance. And the bigger the box meant, they must be saying more prayers. So there's more, they're more important. We don't want that. But should our faith be visible? I'm not saying showy, but should our faith be visible? I agree. The one man prayed in his closet when the Pharisee prayed at the temple and said, "Please, Lord, don't let me be like this." I know he's got a comment, but Go ahead, Brett.
Often you define things by, or often you can define things by looking at the opposites. Something that would be alive is growing. You know, you can typically look at something, and if it is actively growing, you know that it's alive. You know, you can look at plants, people, you know, things. You know, they grow when they're alive. So things that would be the opposite of being alive, you know, something that is dead, is something that is not growing.
Yes. My wife's favorite plants are artificial. Those are the only ones she can keep green. So I agree with you. It is looking at the opposite, isn't it? Joanne? Yeah. Yeah. How does your faith, what does your faith encourage, you know, what do you want to do because of your faith in God, because of your trust, your unwavering confidence in God? David? Yeah, our dead faith would separate us from God. And I like your comment. I want to phrase it in such a way that creates a question. Because I wonder sometimes if we think about those that are around us in church. Are there dead people in church? How do you put that? That's not probably, it doesn't sound really good. It's not a zombie church for anyone watching online. Yeah. We all have our thorns. Oh my goodness. I'm right. But how do we make sure that we are not, how do we make sure we're not dead? And like Joanne said, how do we make sure we're acting upon our faith? What does your faith cause you to do? It's something I hope we can all think about and ponder over this next week as Jared closes us out with this really deep philosophical thought. No pressure.
No pressure at all.
No.
It makes me think about John 4, about worshiping in spirit and in truth. I think if you're worshiping only in truth, that's where you're kind of in the belief without action. That's the gap between belief and faith, and spirit and in truth kind of catches both, where you're not just doing the right thing, you're doing the right thing the right way. You're not just saying the right words, you are believing them, you're thinking about them circumspectly, you're living in the word as you worship.
Yeah, like that. All right, time's up. It's good to see everybody.